so it's on mute.
Say again?
It's on mute right now.
No, not yet.
I got cold and the dog pretty much for a few minutes. I would like to go home with some cold medicine. You know where you can find me every day all day?
Is that ready to go? You have to wait till you call ready. We're just waiting for more people.
Sent an email out. Say I want that extra data. Love you guys dearly, but I'm going to go home and get rid of this cold. I hope so.
Get better, Earl.
Thank you for cracking that with we need some kind of bring it up.
I guess so. It's just it's the structure.
I just feel like looking for it. So here, it's good you captured. You okay? It's okay. Oh, it is all right. Rod, my 11.
Stand on the curb.
anybody? That's just, that's probably what's gonna be on this, whatever, that's the rate that they come up with, does anybody know? That's the rate. And then they're also gonna pay a payment, like a utility tax.
We'll get started in a minute or two. I see that the Village of Spencer has joined, but it doesn't appear they have audio, so let's hope they can figure that out. And also the Village of Burdett.
No, I gotta, that's why I gotta stay there for a second.
Let's see, who is caller? Oh, maybe, do we have the Village of Spencer? Did you guys get audio?
They made it like that.
Yes.
Oh, great. And Dale, are you the other audio? Did you just join, Dale Walter?
We Trish did from the town board in Oleana.
Okay, so maybe you're the, okay. So when I see it, I can see a certain number of green telephones, which means you have audio. And so I'm just trying to track and see, you know, the efficient of everyone's time. Yeah, oh, that's fine, landline works, that's great. It's probably better than cell phone. I'm just, okay. When I see someone's name, oh, go ahead.
Can you hear us okay?
I sure can, yeah.
Oh, okay, excellent, thank you.
Is that Dale? Or is that
Spencer.
Ken? Okay, great. Fantastic, okay. So I think, Dale, you're on. Okay, Randy, you have, yeah, so I believe that everyone has audio. So we're gonna start the recording. This conference will now be recorded. And we will start the presentation. So thank you all for joining me this evening. I'm Louise Gaba. I've met most of you. I'm Mega's Community Choice Aggregation Project Leader. And I'm going to mute you all now because I'm getting a bunch of background noise, but at the end of the presentation, I will unmute you. We can answer questions. Okay, so as you know, we submitted our RFP, or released our RFP a few weeks ago, and we're here tonight to talk about the results that we got for community choice aggregation. So I will talk about the responses, then I will talk about our review process. I will talk about Mega's recommendation, the terms of the proposal, the value, and the pricing. So we sent our request for proposal to around 70 suppliers. They are all registered suppliers eligible to serve New York residents. And we also included a number of owners of renewable electricity assets in that group. Over the period of time between releasing the RFP and receiving responses, we answered over 50 questions. And we shared data with 4 suppliers. Sharing data is an important thing to note because it is required for pricing, and it represents an interest of suppliers that was very great because there was a significant burden around data security to be able to access your data. In the end, we received 2 wonderful compliant proposals, and what made them compliant were 2 categories. The general qualifications, so if they had insurance that was appropriate, if they had all the appropriate state approvals, if they passed the data security requirements, and then the CPA specific elements. If they met our requirements around customer service, if they addressed all of our issues surrounding opt-out abilities, and that there was absolutely no termination fees. So, we had a 5-person team reviewing these proposals. We started by assessing the bids for compliance or non-compliance, and then we used this little snapshot on the right is part of the piece of our scorecard where we actually assess these and other requirements for each energy services company. Then we analyzed the pricing, and then we reviewed the contract terms. So I believe all of you by now have seen our recommendation. It got sent today in our CPA approval sheet. And so we're recommending entering into an agreement with Constellation New Energy. They have significant CPA experience with 545,000 CPA customers in service in 2018, so last year. 95,000 of them are in New York. As you know, I think most of you know, they're the supplier that serves Sustainable Westchester for their CPA. And Constellation generally has 13 years of experience. I know CPA is new in New York, but it's not new in other states like Ohio and Illinois and Massachusetts. So they've been serving residents in those communities for a long time. In addition to their CPA experience, they have extensive residential customer service, 1.4 million customers. So that's about the supplier. Now about the price and terms that they're offering and we're recommending. We're recommending a 24-month term, so for 2 years, at a price of 0.05092. So just over 5 cents, and that's a completely fixed price. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, what that means to be completely fixed. But that is both for residential and small commercial customers. So they were able to price both the same, which is actually very excellent, especially for the small commercial customers who would often pay a higher price than a residential customer. We also were able to, I know some folks on the phone are interested in the renewable option, though not everyone. The 100% renewable option came in at 0.0542. Again, that's for 24 months, and it's completely fixed. A very key piece of this proposal, and we talked about it all along, there can be no termination fee. So if people leave the CPA, which they can do at any time, they cannot be charged, they cannot be penalized in any way. In addition, as we also have discussed, no matter what the municipality chooses as their default supply, so if they pick, the regular full fixed grid supply at 0.05092, an individual within the municipality can always choose to opt up into 100% renewable electricity. And in addition, it's important to remember that this will be a single bill from NYSEG. So all the charges are on one bill, it will come from NYSEG, it will look like a NYSEG bill, and it will just have the CPA pricing on the bottom in the supply portion. Okay, so some of the other terms that are important. Many of you have expressed your concern about the ease of opt-out. We stress that very highly in our review process, and we're pleased to report that Constellation offers every possible way that we could imagine opting out, and in a very convenient fashion. So mail via business reply card, and that will be sent in the opt-out letter. There's a little picture of the reply card there on the right, and as you can see, it's no cost to the resident. The cost is on the supplier to mail that back. Via phone, so opt out via phone, that's a 24/7 access, and all of the calls are answered domestically. And then also via website. So there's a live chat feature through the website. There's also the ability to send an email, and the emails will receive a response within 24 hours. So we feel very good about creating choice and making it very easy for individuals to opt out. In addition, customer service is a huge piece of our analysis. And again, we're happy with the call center with 24/7 365 access, a dedicated 1-800 number for our aggregation, all calls answered in the United States, and a website specific to our CPA that we can customize. So again, we're very happy with these specific terms. Now, value. When we started this process, we talked about the benefits of CPA in a few ways. We talked about the savings. We talked about the fixed price. We talked about protections from predatory practices, and we talked about access to renewables. So our savings analysis is that in 1 year, with this price that we're offering, it's a $1.6 million savings across the aggregation, so across the 40,000 households. It's a fixed price. We've talked about the benefit of this before. I showed you a graph previously, which you probably all remember, and it had no numbers on it. Now I'm showing you a graph that is relevant with our CPA numbers on it. We have the red line that shows our price, and we have the blue line, and the red line is dashed for those who can't see the color. and the blue line is the utility price, and this is for your area looking back for the past 12 months. So you can see there that April of 2018 spike in our aggregation, that won't be happening. Again, on the protection piece, we talked a lot in some communities about the predatory practices, the door-to-door knocking, the aggressive marketing to seniors and low income. That won't, we're working on protecting that through CCA. And again, one of the pieces of those aggressive marketing practices, besides the high price, are termination fees that are exorbitant, and obviously those are not included here. And then with access to renewables, we're able to offer a price for the municipality, and each municipality's decision is their own, and no municipality's decision impacts another. And then we're also able to offer renewables to individuals to opt up. And again, that's an individual decision, and individuals don't impact each other. So pricing, that's the number one thing we all want to talk about. How do we know this is a good price? So Mega calculated a price to beat in our RFP. The price to beat, we used 12 months of NYSEG's historic pricing as a baseline. That's what was just mapped on the previous slide. We'll look at it again in a minute. Then we used forecast pricing for 24 months to capture the cost increases going forward. We used multiple models of that and averaged them. And then we included compliance charges that everyone must pay. So whether you're with the utility, whether you're with the CCA or another third-party supplier, or even if you're with a municipal electric, some folks have half municipal and half not that we've talked with. Everyone has to pay certain charges, and we needed to include those in our fee going forward. An example of why we needed to do that is the requirements surrounding renewable portfolio standards, which is a subsidy for renewable energy that the state requires everyone to pay. And those differences, the price that you have to pay changes in each year. So we needed to account for that. You can see the year 1 and year 2 percentages there. So all of the costs that I'm talking about on this slide that we included in our price to beat are also included in our CCA price. So this is what I mean when I say it's fixed. Everything is fixed. Now, I don't know if any of you have your February bill in front of you. The 5:30 call, a number of people did. And I just want to start off by saying we can't really compare our February bill to the CCA price. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, our CCA will start the supply in July, not in February, and we will offer 24 months, not 1 month. And we fix all of the charges, where NYSEG's charges are variable. So those are the differences between if you're looking at your bill right now and what the CCA is offering. That being said, if we take a price comparison, we are still saving over the previous year and over this month in your region. Also, to help understand the power of aggregation, I went on New York State's Power to Choose website, and this is where an individual can go and look up prices that suppliers are offering, and it will show them compared to the utility price, and it will show them compared to each other. And today, when we decided we were going to recommend a 2-year term, I went on and pretended I was from the city of Cornell. And the price for us for 2 years with no termination fee, as you can see, is significantly higher than the price that the CCA is able to offer. And again, this shows where the market is headed, but it also shows the power of the aggregation. So back to this graph. I just, again, want to remind us that we took a year look back, and so these are the data here. If you're looking at the previous year and the savings. However, I would like to remind everyone that when we've had these conversations over the last 3 years, we talked about much more significant impacts in pricing than are represented in this graph. And so, for example, if we were to have taken a 5-year look back, which we did not intentionally, we would have captured part of the polar vortex, which has been the highest prices in the last 20 years. So that's just a reminder that, one, we needed to set our price to beat appropriately, and two, how high some of those prices have been. So with that, I'm going to unmute all of you, and I will be excited to take your questions. Oops. Questions?
Okay, so we're still muted. If you have a question, I'll.
Hello, this is Trish in Oneonta. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So, you said that the fixed green price would be available to individuals is 0.0542 cents. Is that correct, Lucy?
Yes. 0.0542, correct. That is the price for, that is the price for the municipality. If the town of Oneonta wanted renewable electricity, that would be your price.
Thank you. And it's up to you, individuals to select what, am I missing something? Go ahead, Steve, my husband here.
I think what you're saying is that the town as a whole has to opt up.
Oh, no. We thought you meant
No,
individuals.
there's two options. So the town as a whole can choose renewable, and that costs 0.0542. Then there's also the ability for individuals to opt up if the town does not.
Right, and is that the same price for the individual?
No, it is where do I have that? It is slightly more. Trish, I might have to get that for you. I wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah, continue with other questions. Thank you, Louise.
Of course, I'm writing a note to get that to you. I thought I had it right here on my,
You always get to me. Thank you. Okay.
of course, I will get to you. Other questions?
So I have a question.
I have a question, Louise.
Sure.
This is Ken from the Village of Spencer.
Yes.
Now, I was wondering, I'm looking at my bill right now, and it has under electric supply charges, merchant function charge. Now,
Right.
does your charge include the merchant function charges?
No, because when you switch to third-party supply, you no longer have to pay merchant function charge. And I'm sorry I didn't call you back earlier, but I knew you would not be the only one asking that question. So,
Okay.
if we look at the, graph, this blue line includes the merchant function charge, so it's the supply price and the merchant function charge. The red line does not include it because you do not have to pay it.
Gotcha. Okay, that was my question, because that was, kind of making it a little closer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right, exactly. Sure. Yeah, and the other thing, so that merchant function charge, just like the supply charge, that changes every month when you're with NYSEG. So it makes it even more complicated when you have to graph, this blue line, you have to take the actual supply costs from NYSEG and the merchant function charge from NYSEG, add them together, and then graph it.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So I have a question.
Of course, I think I heard, yes.
This is Mike from the Village of VOO. There's obviously a price for non-renewable or regular.
Yes.
100% renewable. Are the prices for, I know we saw in the proposal, like, somewhere in between 70%, 50%.
Right, so we did not get pricing. The way we structured our bid is that if the suppliers could beat the price to beat with 100% renewables, they didn't have to offer a lower percent of renewables. Undoubtedly, a lower percent of renewables would cost less money than the 100%, but they all only gave the 100% because it was under the price to beat. Does that make sense?
So it's 100% or regular. And then my other question is,
Correct.
if we as a village check the box on the form that says I would like 100% renewable electricity as the default, does that mean everybody in the
Yes.
village starts out with 100% renewable?
Yes. you for those good. Hi, Dale.
Hi. So let's go back to the other gentleman's question. So if we check that box for 100 renewable, that means the village would be locked into that. But if I read it right, the individuals could opt out if they wanted.
You mean they could go back down, you mean they could go to the regular non-green, or you mean they could leave the CCA? Which,
No, they could go down to the 9 green, correct?
yeah, I think that would be totally fine. They just need to understand that they're not opting out, because obviously if they opt out, they'll leave the CCA. They would, we don't actually have a term for that, but if we needed to, if you wanted, if the Village of Owego or the Village of Burdette wanted to make that choice, we would work on the language for what people should say. Because if they say, I want to opt out, and they just mean to go to regular grid supply, that's probably not what will happen. So if that's the decision you all want to make, we will work with you and the supplier to make sure that there's clarity around that option.
I would predict that probably won't ever come up, but somebody might ask that question, so I just want to be able to.
Sure.
That's an important question. Yeah, I can see that.
I appreciate that. Other
You
questions?
can't hear us, right? So if we decided on 100% as a default, and anybody that didn't want to pay that price, wanted to pay the lesser price for what she said.
And you need these forms back by tomorrow night, 5 o'clock, right?
Default down. to
I do,
regular
and if
to lesser
folks
price.
are, so that's the CCA approval sheet, and they are fillable PDFs.
Assurance of that.
So if you're comfortable e-signing, you can e-sign, and if folks are having trouble, you can give me a call and I'll help you do it. Or of course, you can print them out and sign them, or whatever works for you. You can fax them, you can email them, you can text me a picture of it, whatever is most convenient. This shouldn't be the hardest part of the process, and I know everyone has different technology, so.
Your presentation, Louise, that you did through this, is that available for us to print out anywhere?
We are recording it right now, so you can actually watch it, and I can also send you just the slides. Is that Dale again?
Yes, that is, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine, I can do that.
That would be great.
Yes. If anyone else wants them, please either tell me now or send me a note after. Because I know some folks, not every board member can make it, which isn't required. But I do know some board members have been asking for the recording or for the slides. So happy to provide them.
I have another question. This is Mike from Owego.
Of course.
How do people not currently with NYSEG supply, like if they have another ESCO, are they included in this? Do they have to opt into it? How does that?
Correct. They would have to opt in, and that's, they'll look at they need to look at, or they can call us and we'll help them look. Again, some of them will have a termination fee, and so we would want to make sure that that termination fee, sometimes they're as high as $200. So if it's $200 and they only have a month left, or 2 months or 4 months left on their contract, we might advise them to stay and then, opt into the CCA once their contract ends.
And will they get the same price
But
a month from now?
They will get, yep, everyone who either moves into your community after the CCA starts, builds a new house and turns on their electric meter, or leaves third-party supply, leaves another supplier, will be able to access the same price all the way up to, I think it's we put 180 days before the end of the contract. So it's quite far into, even if they're only getting a couple months, we can take them on at the very end. Exactly. Same price. But now the one caveat here is if individuals opt out of the CCA, they say, I don't want this, and then they try to opt back in, I don't know that it will be the same price. It may be, but it may not be, because the idea is to sort of prevent, quote, gaming. So if people were to opt in and out and in and out and in and out, and I know we talked about that before, that's not really possible.
So could we get some sort of documentation that said if we as a municipality, pick the 100% renewable, and if our citizens opt down to the normal full fixed, they would get that rate of 0.0509.
Absolutely, I will get that for you, Mike. I know you have a great interest in this, and I also should note, I hesitate to say this, I didn't say this for the last group, but because there are folks asking about the 100% renewables, there are lots of rumors, and maybe this is why folks are asking, that there will be grant monies for CCAs that choose renewable. And we have structured our renewable component of our CCA to meet the qualifications. I don't know when those grants are going to be available, and I don't know how much those grants are going to be for, because the state hasn't either decided or made that public yet. But I do know, and we do expect that it will be during the term of your CCA. So you are being very strategic in some ways, Mike, by asking that question and saying, you know, we want to avail ourselves of possible grant monies, but we want to allow folks to opt down into, you know, that's a great way to put it, opt down. That's maybe the terminology we'll use, into just the straight, you know, supply. But I will get you text that says that.
This is Mike from a week.
Louise?
We have one more question here.
Sure.
Did you know that the base plan of Constellation is dirtier than United States plan in terms of sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, and CO2? Had you looked at the fuel source mix?
So Jerry, we haven't been given that information yet until we actually sign the contract, and then we'll actually have the environmental disclosure labeled, and we can compare. We don't actually know what resources they've secured on behalf of the CCA until we sign on the dotted line.
That was their NIGAS
The only-
data for 2017, the most recent data available. Thank you.
They know you, Jerry. I don't know, I guess. My voice.
She knows me.
I think someone else had a question too.
Oh, yeah, I know, Trish. Yes, is the timing of signing in advance, tomorrow night by 5, is that for the bidding purposes? I mean, so you can, our board meets at 7 o'clock, but we've been told we have to, sign on prior. Is that due to the time constraints that you're working under?
Yeah, because the supplier can only hold the price for so long, or it costs more to hold the price for a longer period of time. So yes, and we can talk offline. If everyone waited so long to send, I know there are maybe 3 of you that have board meetings tomorrow night, and I do understand that you're discussing it at the board meeting. So it is possible if I have the cell phone number of the individual who will be sending me that CCA approval sheet, and if they give me the ability to call them at 10 p.m. if I don't have the document, then we would accept it later. But I really need it by 5 unless there's some way that we can know, you know, that I can be sure that I can be in touch. Does that make sense? Because we do have a timeline, yeah.
Mike,
And I know it's tight,
since we,
but it's keeping that price low.
since we're slightly
Please,
annoyed
might have
at
to see like a quick
them
question
giving us so
here.
little time to make this
Sure.
decision,
Hey
do you
there.
remember
Just to
what time frame
Try
it
to
was
make
for the
sure
opt-out?
clear as possible on
30
the
days.
100%
That's what it
renewable
was,
option.
and when's
Now,
that
you're
start?
saying that
I
the,
don't know.
Yeah, okay, because I'm not
if the
trustworthy that
municipality
it's gonna be.
opts for the 100% renewable,
So it's
then
timeline.
every individual in that municipality will be under that unless they opt down, correct?
Correct.
Now, if the municipality decides to go with the lower price, with the regular grid, do individuals have the option to individually opt up the 100% renewable?
They do, and it costs slightly more, and I'm sorry, I thought I had a record in front of me.
Hey,
She answered that earlier,
I
but
asked
didn't have
it.
the.
Oh, I didn't know that's what you were asking. Okay.
now, my wife and I think alike, so.
Louise,
You do. You're welcome. No worries, no worries. And I will make sure to send you that that price. I'd have to minimize my screen and then you'll see everything up on my screen, all of my emails and everything. So I realized I did not put that in this presentation, and it is slightly more, and again, that's because the power of aggregation works. So if it's one individual accessing a price versus an entire municipality, it doesn't cost the same, right? It costs more to serve an individual than it does to serve 1,600 households or something like that. Of course. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
This is Mike from WeGo again. We have a
Yes.
question about the opt-out period. When,
Yes,
as we remember, we have 30 days to opt out, right?
correct.
When does that start?
It will be the month of June.
So
By
like
July.
June 1st or July 1st?
Well, it will be the last, to the end of June, the end of June. And actually, the supplier has proposed a 35-day opt-out period because they want to account for mailing. You know, they're mailing everything first class, but they want to make sure they don't assume that it gets there, and so you have a full 30 days.
Okay.
So it'll actually start, the exact calendar date is the end of May. And again, as we move towards there, I'll give you all those details. And I should just remind everyone that, you know, between now and the opt-out period is a whole nother education period. And again, the point of that is when we had these discussions before, and when we had the education sessions before, and we put information in the paper and on your social media before, we didn't know the price, we didn't